Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a big movie review. I'll be having a look at the movie Dark Breed. So this film was made in 1996 and stars Jack Scalia as Captain Cutter. So this is kind of a sci-fi action film. So the film starts off with a US space shuttle crash landing back down into Earth. On board there's 6 astronauts that have been infected with some kind of alien infection. We don't know at this point exactly the details of it. Now, I'll say from the get-go that this film actually, when I first started watching it, I've seen it when it first came out and I just watched it again for this review, and I didn't really remember a lot about it, and it seemed to me like that it should almost have been like a sequel to another film. It isn't, it's actually it's an original film, but it plays like it should have been a sequel to an earlier film. Because some of the stuff doesn't come clear really until a little bit later on, and it alludes to events that have happened previously. But anyway, you kind of get the sense of what's going on ultimately in the end. So, as I say, this shuttle crash lands and 6 astronauts are in this and they kind of escape. And we know earlier that they've been infected with some sort of alien virus or something like that, some kind of infection. And the military is sort of surrounding the area to sort of try and recapture it. Jack Scalia as Captain Cutter, along with his small team, are part of that. And then as we sort of get to know the plot as it sort of goes along, we see these astronauts and they're kind of been inhabited by these parasitic aliens that sort of ultimately are kind of controlling them, and they have their sort of own agenda. Basically they're ultimately trying to invade Earth, and they have kind of like this, they're trying to locate like an egg sac thing, so they're trying to sort of obviously create more aliens to sort of try and take over the Earth. You know, they inhabit these human bodies for, I think they say, about 84 hours, something along the lines of that. In which case they sort of have a little bit more durability when they're sort of, when they're still in the human form. But they ultimately are going to kind of sort of metamorphose into these kind of more alien-esque monsters, as obviously happens towards the end of the film. Now, as the film goes on, we kind of learn that the actual government themselves may have had a hand in the actual sort of responsibility of what actually has happened. I won't go too much into it for fear of spoilers, but ultimately you find out that there's kind of there's a bit of a government conspiracy as well. So realistically, you have actually almost a three-way fight here. You have the actual aliens themselves, of which 5 of them are kind of evil, and one of them ends up sort of being a bit more of a, sort of a good guy, who ironically is the ex-wife, or this alien's hosting in the body of Jack Scalia's ex-wife, the only female astronaut. You have obviously the kind of the military, who have these kind of like these ultimately they want to make these these sort of aliens into weapons, and you have obviously Captain Cutter and his sort of small band of rebels, if you like, that are kind of trying to destroy the aliens and kind of thwart this attempt to try and make them into weapons, including the kind of his ex-wife, which is inhabited by this sort of female alien. And that's ultimately the plot. You kind of get a bit more backstory about what happened and a little bit more into it as obviously the plot goes on. Now, this being kind of mid-90s action film, it kind of follows that sort of trend of like these sort of low to moderate budget sort of sci-fi action films that seem to have come out quite a lot. Now, I will say this. This film has some good points in it. Now, it's obviously not a massive budget film, but the money that they had is obviously well spent. There's some really, really good action set pieces, and there's in particular 2 car chases that I think are absolutely fantastic, that hold up against the sort of a lot of the higher budget sort of blockbuster films. Really, really good set pieces. Very, very exciting. I think the effects for the sort of the mid-90s, and obviously with a lower budget, are pretty good. They kind of use the majority of practical effects, and the actual alien suits themselves, look pretty decent. They kind of look a cross between the actual the aliens from the Aliens films and a Predators. They almost look like a Pred-Alien type thing. You don't see them until very late on in the film in their sort of full glory. It's probably the last sort of 10-15 minutes or so. But when you do see them, they look pretty effective. Prior to that, you basically have these kind of the astronauts with kind of yellow eyes, and you sort of see a little bit of the sort of like the computer morphing that they sort of start to change and things like that. So it's quite an exciting, and there's quite a lot of action in it. The special effects are pretty good, but this film is a great example of very sort of flashy visuals, but not a lot sort of going on elsewhere. There's some wildly sort of stupid logic that's happening in here. My biggest issue with this film is the portrayal of the military, because it's just completely so far of what the military are actually like and what they would actually do. Even from regards to the way they dress, their uniforms are all very haphazard. Some are wearing military, some are wearing like navy, for example. Some are wearing just like almost like more police uniforms. They're sort of pursuing people in civilian cars, not army vehicles, stuff like that. And just the way they operate, the way they're kind of acting, and you have the kind of the sort of the human bad guy, main bad guy, again, very very cliched, sort of mustache twirling sort of villain, that sort of thing. So that to me, that amount they spent on the effects and that sort of the action set pieces is fantastic. But okay, this is a period of time where maybe the realism wasn't as important as it is these days. But even so, it was kind of looking at it now. It's kind of, you think, oh god, it's a bit stupid. They clearly haven't got any sort of idea about how that's going to sort of happen and stuff like that. And the other problem, it is fairly cliche. There's not a lot of originality in regards to the sort of plot and stuff like that. There's quite a lot of very sort of cliched and stilted dialogue. Arguably, if you're going to be watching, an action sci-fi film from the mid-90s, I don't know really if you'd expect that. So with these kind of issues, I would say I'd give it a 5 out of 10, because on the surface it does look very good and it's exciting stuff to watch. But realistically, you're not going to be interested in this film if you're looking at a more cerebral level and sort of engaging characters. They all seem very sort of like caricatures of and that sort of thing. So 5 out of 10, okay, I'd say bang on an average film. You kind of have to know a little bit about what you're going to get yourself into if you're going to be watching this film. But watch it just for the special effects and the and the sort of the action. There you go. Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.